Okay, we've got an airship to gain. We just need to find the desert it's apparently waiting for us in. Okay, we see a desert, not sure if it's the desert. Next step, find a way into it, all while fighting whatever comes our way. I've kinda got to wonder how Crescent Lake manages to have supplies for us to grab, considering the sheer number of hyper-aggressive monsters around it. You'd think that something like this would really screw with the various trading routes, but then fiction in general seems to have trouble with logistics, even the ones that are supposed to be pretty damn realistic. Anyway, nice to know that we didn't have to go all that far in order to activate the Levystone or get to a specific pixel. Pretty much the moment our feet touched sand was good enough to get the job done. Well, I'm not a great judge of airships, but this looks like it'll do some good. Part of me finds it a bit of a shame the game doesn't allow for us to name it, but then it's not like this world has any other airships around, so no need to give any kind of qualifiers to make our ship distinct. Sort of like the fact that we don't need to bother to name the regular water-based boat that we sail in, since it's the only ocean-based ship we ever see in the entire game. It's hard to really complain about how dead the world seems since, well, not only is this a very old game when they couldn't have done much to make the world feel alive, the point of the plot is that we're trying to prevent this world from completely dying. Anyway, excuse me for fast-forwarding as I try to get to our next destination now that the entire world is open for us. In a few playthroughs, I've confused our next major stop with one of the PSP's unique dungeons, and good God, I really want to avoid making that same mistake this time. I recorded a little bit of footage of myself going into the dungeon at around this point. Did not really bother saving it on the same file, and I might show it a little later after the credits for the sake of talking about it, but we'll see, I might just ignore it altogether. For the curious, I've been trying to land, but the game has some very strict rules about landing the airship. Rules that they never explicitly tell you in the game itself. You have to land on grassy fields. Mountains, swamps, forests, towns, and castles are not acceptable places to set this thing down. They would not have taken the game long to have told us that explicitly. And this is the absolute first game in the franchise. It's not like the players would be likely to know the rules about this thing in this entry since, well, what other examples were there of airships like this when Final Fantasy I was originally released? Really? We can't even sit down in the sand, but we took off from the sand in the first place. Dear God, this is an inconvenient spot considering we want to go to that castle we saw earlier at... Hold on, I seem to have noticed something else when I was looking at the online map, Okay, we've got a new town, which means new stores. Kinda curious why they named this place Gaia, when it has absolutely nothing to do with the Earth Cave. And why would people call this town the Eye of the Hawk? It's named after the Greek titan that was Mother Earth. Of course, I should also be complaining that Crescent Lake didn't look like a crescent to me. The location names just kind of feel like they pulled them out of a random hat. Right, so the spells here are too advanced for a black mage to ever learn. At least not until we get to upgrade the classes of our team, which will come later. And we've got the same problem with the white mage around here. Are the 7th level spells the absolute best spells in the game? Because I do not think there are going to be any further towns with magic stores, or really stores at all after this point. We're just going to keep coming back to the same places over and over again to resupply. Huh. There's a language barrier of some kind in this game? I wouldn't have thought the world would have that kind of complexity to it. As a matter of fact, we can. It's gonna be quite the fad in later Final Fantasy games, make an airship fleet something pretty important. Considering there's 8 beds in this inn, I can't help feeling it would have been fun to see some version of the game's limited story where all the classes are active characters in the world. I remember reading a webcomic that was a bit of a comedy that pulled something to that effect, but I can't really remember the name of it. I remember discovering the manga Change 123, a manga about a girl that could shift around between 3 martial arts personalities. At the same time, I did the Final Fantasy webcomic and stuck with Change 123. It was certainly a fun manga. I can certainly recommend it, and I kind of wish they made an anime of it. Certainly would be easier to make than some other action-oriented things I've seen over the years, and it would definitely be better than the march of harem isekai crap that's been churning out, that's for sure. 4 personalities, 3 of them badasses, all in one body, and I should probably get back to actually talking about this game. Not too surprising that this town is doing so much damage to our wallet when it's the last location I remember that has any kinds of stores in it. If you want better equipment, you're gonna have to find it in a dungeon, either as some monster drops or by opening a chest. While I could have gotten away with not bothering to equip Tyson with anything, considering the amount of abuse he's been taking, I'd say he needs the armor more than even our mages. It helps that, unlike a lot of the other equipment in the game, the armor here actually does have positive effects on him, which I would not be surprised if some people just plain didn't notice. So, any other buildings worth visiting around here? Then it sounds like we need to make friends with a fairy. Oh, bloody hell, I just checked the calendar, and apparently the first Megami Tensei game came out just months before Final Fantasy I. I only checked because I wanted to make a joke about Megami Tensei, borrowing that little idea from Final Fantasy. But the games were released so close in time to one another, I don't think any kind of cross-pollination was possible between them. But then it's not like I know how long it generally took to develop games back in the late 80s. All I know is that these days, large companies pour a lot of money and time into games, sometimes more than they really need to. And considering the fact that I'm playing through a game this old, I'd say that's good proof that I don't really give a damn how good the graphics or soundtrack are. I'm just here to have fun. As a side note, the weapons shop only sells one type of weapon, and it's something that can only be used by one class. As if the location and prices weren't enough for these guys to have trouble staying in business. I suppose Mirage Tower is someplace we're gonna have to go to later on then. Well, that makes sense considering they were called Sky People. Maybe they built the airship we recently gained. Huh. Been a while since we've seen a witch. Well, you could remove the magic spell and sweep things the old-fashioned way. As far as I know, it's not like you need to put all that much muscle into sweeping anyway. But mopping, on the other hand, is an annoying chore that I wish I could just magically do without having to leave my chair. Of course, if someone somehow managed to find a way to automate that, I'd probably still be a bit leery, if only because I've got a lot of electronics, and it'd be more more than a little embarrassing for my computer or the drives connected to it to get mocked. Huh. So we've got level 8 spells in this town as well, not just level 7. No surprise that 8 is out of reach considering we're not allowed to get to 7 just yet either. No regular potions, but nice to see that tents and cottages are available here. I somehow doubt we're going to use this town for resupplies all that often, though. Crescent Lake seems to be the better option. I'm sure we'll stumble onto him sooner or later. Wasn't expecting to see any pirates in a place you can't even get to by boat. The big deal is she should be able to give us something that will be important later on, and you just made that task harder than it strictly needed to be. I'm sorely tempted to try to pray for patience as we continue trying to save this world, but unfortunately the church only exists as a way to bring people back from the dead if you don't have a phoenix down to restore them yourselves. It's actually pretty amazing how little I bother to use the churches in this game, considering they have what should be considered a miraculous healing power. Guess that just goes to show that I've been doing a pretty solid job of preventing our team from having all that many casualties, so I must be doing something right. For a moment, I thought I didn't talk to everyone, but I did, so let's save and then head to another desert. Looks like that's not going to take too long either, based on the raw footage. So this is going to be one of my shorter clips. And the clip immediately after this is going to be significantly longer, assuming I don't do far more fast forwarding than I'm expecting to, or just find a cutoff point. Wait, considering my landing point, am I even going to that desert that the ferry is supposed to be in just yet? Hell, it doesn't even look like I actually even entered the location now that I'm looking at in the footage. I'm just gonna stop just outside of it and save again, just outside the castle we saw as we flew by earlier. I'm sure I had a good reason for doing it in this order, but this was recorded a significantly long time before I started commenting on it, and I am mostly working on the commentary without bothering to look at any guides whatsoever, just going based on what the game itself tells us and the footage as it comes by on screen. It's not quite a live reaction, but I find working on commentary this way helps to keep it sounding more real and not stilted. It also occasionally is its own kind of fun when I'm surprised by my own decisions in a particularly long game. Still, this is a moment where I wish I had written down notes about my thoughts as I recorded the game, so I wouldn't have a few moments of just going, what the hell is this idiot doing? Moments that probably make the me working on commentary seem dumber than the me who's actually playing the game. As a side note, I'm sorry, when I think of a basilisk, I think of some snake creature, not a six-legged lizard. I blame Harry Potter for that. The Chamber of Secrets was the first time I'd ever seen a basilisk in fiction. I'm pretty sure most other forms of fiction make it a multi-legged lizard thing instead of a snake, and the only reason Rowling made it a snake was for the whole Parseltongue thing. Regardless, it's hard for those things to turn us to stone when we're decapitating them, or just outright crushing their skulls. And it's a good thing too, since I didn't stock up on petrification healing items. Wait, why are those called were-tigers when they look more like lions? And why is it they made the were-tigers distinct from the other cat sprites, but werewolves don't get a humanoid form for some reason? Was it a space constraint in the original release of the game or something? May as well use a tent before we get in there, not that I remember what that castle is for.